tree, the plant, the animal, each one finds its need. You are an intelligent, reasoning creature. Your mind is a part of universal mind. And you have power to say when you require for perfect growth. Don't be niggard with yourself. Don't sell yourself for a penny. Whatever price you set upon yourself, life will give you. So aim high, demand much. Make a clear, distinct mental image of what it is you want. Hold it in your thought, visualize it, see it, believe it. The ways and means of satisfying that desire will follow, for supply always comes on the heel of demand. It is by doing this that you take your fate out of the hands of chance. It is in this way that you control the experience you are to have in life. But be sure to visualize only what you want. The law works both ways. If you visualize your worries and your fears, you will make them real. Control your thought and you will control circumstances. Conditions will be what you make them. Most of us are like factories where 2/3 of the machines are idle, where the workmen move around in listless, dispirited sort of way, doing only the 10th part of what they could do if the head of the plant were watching and directing them. Instead of that, he is off idly dreaming or waiting for something to turn up. What he needs is someone to point out to him his listless workmen and idle machines, and show him how to put each one to working full and overtime. And that is what you need, too. You are working at only 1/10 of your capacity. You are doing only 1/10 of what you are capable of doing. The time you spend idly wishing or worrying can be used in so directing your subconscious mind that it will bring you anything of good you may desire. Philip of Macedonian, Alexander's father, perfected the phalanx, a triangular formation which enabled him to center the whole weight of his attack on one point in the opposing line. It drove through everything opposed to it. In that day and age it was invincible, and the idea is just as invincible today. Keep the one thought in mind. See it being carried out step by step, and you can knit any group of workers into one homogeneous whole, all centered on the one idea. You can accomplish any one thing. You can put across any definite idea. Keep that mental picture ever in mind, and you will make it as invincible as was Alexander's phalanx of old. It is not the guns or armament or the money that they can pay. It's the close cooperation that makes them win the day. It is not the individual or the army as a whole, but the everlasting teamwork of every bloomin' soul. J. Mason Knox. The error of the ages is the tendency mankind has always shown to limit the power of mind, or its willingness to help in time of need. Know ye not, said Paul, that ye are the temples of the living God? No, most of us do not know it, or at least if we do, we are like the Indian family put on the Cherokee reservation. Oil had been found in their land and money poured in upon them. More money than they'd ever known was in the world. Someone persuaded them to build a great house, to have it beautifully furnished, richly decorated. The house, when finished, was one of the show places in that locality, but the Indians, while very proud of their showy house, continued to live in their old sod shack. So it was with many of us. We may know that we are temples of the living God. We may even be proud of the fact. But we never take advantage of it to dwell in that temple, to proclaim our dominion over things and conditions. We never avail ourselves of the power that is ours. The great prophets of old had the forward look. Theirs was the era of hope and expectation. They looked for a time when the revelation should come that was to make men sons of God. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Jesus came to fulfill that revelation. Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. The world has turned in vain to matter and materialistic philosophy for deliverance from its woes. In the future, the only march of actual progress will be in the mental realm. And this progress will not be in the way of human speculation and theorizing, but in the actual demonstration of the universal, infinite mind. The world stands today within the vestibule of the vast realm of divine intelligence, wherein is found the transcendent, practical power of mind over all things. What eye never saw, nor ear ever heard, what never entered the mind of man, even all that God has prepared for those who love him. As a man thinketh, our remedies in ourselves do lie, which we ascribe to heaven. Shakespeare. In our great-grandfather's day, when witches flew around by night and cast their spell upon all unlucky enough to cross them, men thought the power of sickness or health, or good fortune or ill, resided outside themselves. We laugh today at such benighted superstition, but even in this day and age there are few who realize that the things they see are but effects. Fewer still have any idea of the causes by which these effects are brought about. Every human experience is an effect. You laugh, you weep, you joy, you sorrow, you suffer, you are happy. Each of these is an effect, the cause of which can be easily traced. But all the experiences of life are not so easily traceable to their primary causes. We save money for our old age. We put it into a bank or into safe bonds, and the bank breaks or the railroad or corporation falls into receivership. We stay at home on a holiday to avoid risk of accident, and fall off a stepladder down the stairs and break a limb. We drive slowly for fear of danger, and a speeding car comes from behind and knocks us into a ditch. A man goes over Niagara Falls in a barrel without harm, and then slips on a banana peel, breaks his leg, and dies of it. What is the cause back of it all? If we can find it and control it, we can control the effect. We shall no longer then be the football of fate. We shall be able to rise above the conception of life, and no matter what is our master. There is but one answer. The world without is a reflection of the world within. We imagine thoughts of disaster upon our subconscious minds, and then the genie of our mind finds ways of bringing them into effect. Even though we stay at home, even though we take every possible precaution, the mental image is that what counts. Be it good or ill, it is a devastating or beneficent force, just as we choose to make it. To paraphrase Thackeray, the world is a looking glass and gives back to every man the reflection of his own thought. For matter is not real substance. Material science today shows that matter has no natural eternal existence. Dr. Willis Whitney, in an address before the American Chemical Society on August 8, 1925, discussing matter, Is There Anything in It?, stated that the most we know about matter is that it is almost entirely space. It is as empty as the sky. It is almost as empty as a perfect vacuum, although it usually contains a lot of energy. Thought is the only force. Just as polarity connects electrons, gravitation the planets, tropism the plants and lower animals, just so thought controls the action and environment of men, and thought is subject wholly to the control of mind. Its direction rests with us. Walt Whitman had the right of it when he said, "Nothing external to me has any power over me." The happenings that occur in the material world are in themselves neither cheerful or sorrowful. Just as outside of the eye that observes them, colors are neither green nor red. It is our thoughts that make them so. And we can color those thoughts according to our own fancy. We can make the world without, but a reflection of the world within. We can make matter a force subject entirely to the control of our mind, for matter is merely our wrong view of what universal mind sees rightly. We cannot change the past experience, but we can determine what the new one shall be. We can make the coming day just what we want it to be. We can be tomorrow what we think today. For the thoughts are causes, and the conditions are the effects. What is the reason for most failures in life? The fact that they first thought failure. They allowed competition, hard time, fear, and worry to undermine their confidence. Instead of working aggressively ahead, spending money to make more money, they stopped every possible outlay, tried to play it safe, but expected others to continue spending with them. War is not the only place where the best defense is a strong offense. The law of compensation is always at work. Man is not at the caprice of fate. He is his own fate. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. We are our own past thoughts, with the things that these thoughts have attracted to add us on. The successful man has no time to think of failure. He is too busy thinking up new ways to succeed. You can't pour water into a vessel already full. All about you is energy, electronic energy, exactly that which makes up the solid objects you possess. The only difference is that the loose energy round about you is unappropriated. It is still virgin gold, undiscovered, unclaimed. You can think it into anything you wish, into gold, dross, health or sickness, strength, weakness, success or failure. Which shall it be? There is nothing either good or bad, said Shakespeare, but thinking makes it so. The understanding of that law will enable you to control every other law that exists. In it is to be found the panacea for all ills, the satisfaction of all wants, all desire. It is creative mind's own provision for man's freedom. Have you ever read Basil King's Conquest of Fear? If you haven't, do so by all means. Here is the way he visions the future. Taking him, Jesus, as our standard, we shall work out, I venture to think, to the following points of progress. A. The control of matter in furnishing ourselves with food and drink by means more direct than at present employed, as he turned water into wine and fed the multitudes with the loaves and fishes. B. The control of matter by putting away from ourselves, by methods more sure and less roundabout than those of today, sickness, blindness, infirmity, and deformity. C. The control of matter by regulating our atmospheric conditions, as he stilled the tempest. D. The control of matter by restoring to his phase of existence those who had passed out of it before their time, or who can ill be spared from it, as he raised 3 young people from the dead, and Peter and Paul followed his example. E. The control of matter in putting it off and on at will, as he in his death and resurrection. F. The control of matter in passing altogether out of it, as he in what he called his ascension into heaven. Mortals are healthy or unhealthy, happy or unhappy, strong or weak, alive or dead, in the proportion that they think thoughts of health or illness, strength or weakness. Your body, like all other material things, manifests only what your mind entertains in belief. In a general way, you have often noticed as yourself. A man with an ugly disposition, which is a mental state, will have a harsh, unlovely feature. One with a gentle disposition will have a smiling and serene countenance. All the other organs of the human body are equally responsive to thought. Who has not seen the face become red with rage or white with fear? Who has not known of people who become desperately ill following an outburst of temper? Physicians declare that just as fear, irritability, and hate distort the features, they likewise distort the heart, stomach, and liver. Experiments conducted on a cat shortly after a meal showed that when it was purring contentedly, its digestive organs functioned perfectly. But when a dog was brought into the room and the cat drew back in fear and anger, the X-rays showed that its digestive organs were so contorted as to be almost tied up in a knot. Each of us make his own world, and he makes it through mind. It is a commonplace fact that no two people see the same thing alike. A primrose by a river's brim, a yellow primrose was to him, and it was nothing more. Thoughts are the causes, conditions are merely effects. We can mold ourselves and our surroundings by resolutely directing our thoughts towards the goal we have in mind. Ordinary animal life is very definitely controlled by temperature, by climate, by seasonal conditions. Man alone can adjust himself to any reasonable temperature conditions. Man alone has been able to free himself to a great extent from the control of natural forces through his understanding of the relation of cause and effect. And now man is beginning to get a glimpse of the final freedom that shall be his from all formal material causes, when he shall acquire the complete understanding that mind is the only cause, and that effects are what he sees. We moderns are unaccustomed, says one talented writer, to the mastery over our own inner thoughts and feelings. That a man should be prey to any thought that chances to take possession of his mind is commonly among us assumed as unavoidable. It may be a matter of regret that he should be kept awake all night from anxiety as to the issue of a lawsuit on the morrow, but that he should have the power of determining whether he be kept awake or not seems an extravagant demand. The image of an impending calamity is no doubt odious, but it is very odious, we say, makes it haunt the mind all the more perniciously, and it is useless to expel it. Yet this is an absurd position for man, the heir of the ages, to be in. Hag-ridden by this flimsy creature of his own brain, if a pebble in our boot torments it, we expel it. We take off the boot and shake it out. And once the matter is fairly understood, it is just as easy to expel an intruding and obnoxious thought from the mind. About this there ought to be no mistake, no two opinions. The thing is obvious, clear, unmistakable. It should be as easy to expel an obnoxious thought from the mind as to shake a stone out of your shoe. And until a man can do that, it is just nonsense to talk about his ascendancy over nature and all the rest of it. He is a mere slave, and a prey to the bat-winged phantoms that flit through the corridor of his own brain. Yet the weary and careworn faces that we meet by thousands, even among the affluent classes of civilization, testify only too clearly how seldom this mastery is obtained. How rare indeed to find a man, how common rather to discover a creature hounded on by tyrant thoughts, or cares or desires, cowering, wincing under the lash. It is one of the prominent doctrines of some of the Oriental schools of practical psychology that the power of expelling thoughts, or if need be, killing them dead on the spot, must be attained. Naturally, the art requires practice, but like other arts, when once acquired, there is no mystery or difficulty about it. It is worth practice. It may be fairly said that life only begins when this art has been acquired. For obviously, when instead of being ruled by individual thoughts, the whole flock of them, in their immense multitude and variety and capacity, is ours to direct and dispatch and employ where we list, life becomes a thing so vast and grand, compared to what it was before, that its former condition may well appear almost antenatal. If you can kill a thought dead for the time being, you can do anything else with it that you please, and therefore it is that power so valuable, and not only frees a man from mental torment, which is 9/10 at least of the torment of life, but it gives him a concentrated power of handling mental work absolutely unknown to him before. The two are correlative to each other. There is no intelligence in matter, whether that matter be electronic energy made up in the form of stone, iron, wood, or flesh. It all consists in energy. The universal substance from which mind forms all material things. Mind is the only intelligence. It alone is eternal. It alone is supreme in the universe. When we reach that understanding, we will no longer have cause for fear, because we will realize that universal mind is the creator of life only, that death is not an actuality, it is merely the absence of life, and life will be ever present. Remember the old fairy story of the son was listening to a lot of earthly creatures talking of the very dark place he had found, a place of Stygian blackness. Each told how terrifically dark it had seemed. The son went and looked for it. He went to the exact spot they had described. He searched everywhere, but he could not find even a teeny dark spot. And he came back and told the earth creatures he did not believe there was any dark place. When the sun of understanding shines in all dark spots in our lives, we will realize that there is no cause, no creature, no power except good. Evil is not an entity, it is merely the absence of good. And there can be no ill effects without an evil cause. Since there is no evil cause, only good can have a reality of power. There is no beginning or end to good. From it there can be nothing but blessing for a whole race. In it is found no trouble. If God, or good, the two are synonymous, is the only cause, then the only effect must be like the cause. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Don't be content with passively reading this. Use it, practice it. Exercise is far more necessary to mental development than it is to physical. Practice the daily dozen of right thinking. Stretch your mind to realize how infinitely far it can reach out, what boundless vision it can have. Breathe out all the old thoughts of sickness, discouragement, failure, worry, and fear. Breathe in deep, long-breath thoughts of unlimited health, strength, unlimited happiness, and success. Practice looking forward, always looking forward to something better, better health, finer physique, greater happiness, and bigger success. Take these mental breathing exercises every day. See how closely you will control your thoughts, how quickly you will see the good effects. You've got to think all the time. Your mind will do that anyway. And the thoughts are constantly building for good or ill. So be sure to exile all the thoughts of fear and worry and disease, and lack that have been troubling you, and inhale only those you want to see realized. The law of supply. They do me wrong who say I come no more, when once I knock and fail to find you in. For every day I stand outside your door, and bid you wake and rise to fight and win. Wail not for precious chances passed by, weep not for golden ages on the wane. Each night I burn the records of the day, at sunrise every soul is born again. Walter Malone. Have you ever run a race or worked at utmost capacity for a protracted period or swum a great distance? Remember how, soon after starting, you began to feel tired. Remember how, before you had gone any great distance, you thought you had reached your limit. But remember, too, how when you kept on going, you got your second wing. Your tiredness vanished, your muscles throbbed with energy. You felt literally charged with speed and endurance. Stored in every human being are great reserves of energy, of which the average individual knows nothing. Most people are like a man who drives a car in low gear, not knowing that by the simple shift of a lever, he can set it into high and not merely speed up the car, but do it with far less expenditure of power. The law of the universe is a law of supply. You see it on every hand. Nature is lavish in everything she does. Look at the heavens at night. There are millions of stars there, millions of worlds, millions of suns among them. Surely there is no lack of wealth or profusion in a mind that could imagine all these things. No place for limitation there. Look at the vegetation in the country round about you. Nature supplies all the shrubs or trees may need for their growth and sustenance. Look at the lower forms of animal life, the birds and wild animals, the reptiles, the insects, the fish in the sea. Nature supplies them bountifully with everything they need. They have but to help themselves to what she holds out to them with such a lavish hand. Look at all the natural resources of the world, coal, iron, oil, and all metals. There is plenty for everyone. We hear a lot about the exhaustion of our resources of coal and oil, but there is available coal enough to last mankind for thousands of years. There are vast oil fields practically untouched, probably others bigger still yet to be discovered. And when all these are exhausted, the extraction of oil from shale will keep the world supplied for countless more years. There is abundance for everyone, but just as you must strain and labor to reach the resource of your second wind, just so you must strive before you can make manifest the law of supply in nature. The world belongs to you. It is your estate. It owes you not merely the living, but everything of good you may desire. You've got to demand these things of it, though. You've got to fear not, dread not, stop it not. You've got to have the faith of a Columbus, crossing an unknown sea, holding a mutinous crew to the task long before they had ceased to believe in themselves or in him. and giving to the world a new hemisphere. You've got to have faith of a Washington, defeated, discredited, almost wholly deserted by his followers, yet holding steadfast in spite of it all, and giving to America new liberty. You have got to dominate, not to cringe. You've got to make the application of the law of supply. Consider the lilies, how they grow. The flowers, the birds, all of creation are incessantly active. The trees and flowers in their growth, the birds and wild creatures in building their nest and finding sustenance, are always working, but never worrying. Your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things, and all these things shall be added unto you. If all would agree to give up worrying, to be industrious, but never anxious about the outcome, it would mean the beginning of a new era in human progress, an age of liberty, of freedom from bondage. Jesus set forth the universal law of supply when he said, Therefore I say unto you, be not anxious for the morrow, what ye shall eat, or wherewithal ye shall be clothed. But seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. What is this kingdom of God? Jesus tells us, the kingdom of God is within you. It is the Father within you, to which he so frequently referred. It is mind, your part of universal mind. Seek first the kingdom of God. Seek first an understanding of this power within you. Learn to contact with it, to use it, and all those things shall be added unto you. All riches have their origin in mind. Wealth is in ideas, not money. Money is merely the material medium of exchange for ideas. The paper money in your pocket is in itself worth no more than so many Russian rubles. It is the idea behind it gives it value. Factory buildings, machinery, materials are in themselves worthless without a manufacturing or a selling idea behind them. How often you see a factory fall to pieces, the machinery rust away, after the idea behind them gave out. Factories, machines are simply the tools of trade. It is the idea behind them that makes them go. So don't go out a seeking of wealth. Look within you for ideas. The kingdom of God is within you. Use it purposefully. Use it to think constructively. Don't say you are thinking when all you are doing is exercising your faculty of memory, as Dumont says in The Master Mind. They are simply allowing the stream of memory to flow through their field of consciousness, while the ego stands on the banks and idly watches the passing water of memory flow by. They call this thinking, why in reality there is no process of thought underway. They are like the old mountaineer sitting in the shade alongside his cabin. Asked what he did to pass the long hours away, he said, Well, sometimes I sit and think, and sometimes I just sat. Dumont goes on to say in quoting another writer, When I use the word thinking, I mean thinking with a purpose, with an end in view, thinking to solve a problem. I mean the kind of thinking that is forced on us when we are deciding on a course of purpose in life, on life work to take up. The kind of thinking that was forced upon us in our younger days when we had to find a solution to a problem in mathematics, or when we tackled psychology in college. I do not mean thinking in snatches or holding petty opinions on this subject and on that. I mean thought of significant questions which lie outside the bounds of your narrow personal welfare. This is the kind of thinking which is now so rare, so sadly needed. The kingdom of God is the kingdom of thought, of achievement, of health, happiness, and prosperity. I came that ye might have life and have it more abundantly. But you have to seek it. You have to do more than ponder. You have got to think instructively, to seek how you may discover new worlds, new methods, new needs. The greatest discoveries, you know, have arisen out of things which everybody had seen, but only one man had noticed. The biggest fortunes have been made out of opportunities which many men had, but only one man grasped. Why is it that so many millions of men and women go through life in poverty and misery, in sickness and despair? Why? Primarily because they make a reality of poverty through their fear of it. They visualize poverty, misery, and disease, and thus bring them into being. And secondly, they cannot demonstrate the law of supply for the same reason that so many millions cannot solve the first problem in algebra. The solution is simple, but they have never been shown the method. They do not understand the law. The essence of this law is that you must think abundance, see abundance, feel abundance, believe abundance. Let no thought of limitation enter your mind. There is no lawful desire of yours for which, as far as mind is concerned, there is not abundant satisfaction. And if you can visualize it in mind, you can realize it in your daily world. Blessed is the man whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of the water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Don't worry, don't doubt, don't dig up the seeds of prosperity and success to see whether they have sprouted. Have faith. Nourish your seeds with renewed desire. Keep before your mind's eye the picture of the thing you want. Believe in. No matter if you seem to be in the clutch of misfortune, no matter if the future looks black and dreary, forget your fears. Realize that the future is of your own making. There is no power that can keep you down but yourself. Set your goal. Forget the obstacles between. Forget the difficulties in the way. Keep only the goal before your mind's eye, and you will win it. Judge Troward, in his Edinburgh Lectures on Mental Sciences, shows the way. The initial step, then, consists in determining the picture, the universal mind, as the ideal of all we could wish it to be, both to ourselves and to others, together with the endeavor to reproduce this ideal, however imperfectly, in our own life. And this step having been taken, we can then cheerfully look upon it as our ever-present friend, providing all good, guarding from all danger, and guiding us with all counsel. Similarly, if we think of this great power devoted to supplying all our needs, we shall impress this character also upon it. And by the law of subjective mind, it will proceed to enact the part of that special providence which we have credited with being. And if beyond general care of our concerns, we could draw to ourselves some particular benefit, the same rule holds good of impressing our desire upon the universal subjective mind. And thus the deepest problems of philosophy brings us back to the old statement of the law: ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. This is the summing up to the natural law of the relation between us and a divine mind. It is thus no vain boast that mental science can enable us to make our lives what we will. And to this law there is no limit. What it can do for us today, it can do tomorrow, and through all the procession of tomorrows that loses itself in the dim vista of eternity. Belief in limitation is the one and only thing that causes limitation. Because we thus impress limitation upon the creative principle, and in proportion as we lay that belief aside, our boundaries will expand, and increasing life and more abundant blessing will be ours. You are not working for some firm merely for the pittance they pay you. You are part of the great scheme of things, and what you do has its bearing on the ultimate result. That being the case, you are working for Universal Mind, and Universal Mind is the most generous paymaster there is. Just remember that you can look to it for all good things. Supply is where you are and what you need. Do you want a situation? Close your eyes and realize that somewhere is the position for which you of all people are best fitted, and which is best fitted to your ability. The position where you can do the utmost of good, and where life in turn offers the most to you. Realize that Universal Mind knows exactly where this position is, and that through your subconscious mind you too can know it. Realize that this is your position, that it needs you, that it belongs to you, that it is right for you to have it, that you are entitled to it. Hold this thought in mind every night for just a moment, then go to sleep knowing that your subconscious mind has the necessary information as to where this position is and how to get in touch with it. Mind you, not will have, but has. The earnest realization of this will bring the position to you, and you to it, as surely as the morrow will bring the sun. Make the law of supply operative, and you find that the things you seek are seeking you. Get firmly fixed in your own mind the definite conviction that you can do anything you greatly want to do. There is no such thing as lack of opportunity. There is no such thing as only one opportunity. You are subject to a law of boundless and perpetual opportunity, and you can enforce that law in your behalf, just as widely as you need. Opportunity is infinite, never present. Burton Braley has it well expressed in his poem on opportunity. For the best verse hasn't been rhymed yet. The best house hasn't been planned. The highest peak hasn't been climbed yet. The mightiest river aren't spanned. Don't worry and fret, faint-hearted. The chances have just begun. For the best jobs haven't been started. The best works haven't been done. Nothing stands in the way of a will which wants, an intelligence which knows. The great thing is to start. Begin your work, says Ausonius. To begin is complete the first half. The second half remains. Begin again and the work is done. It matters not how small or unimportant your task may seem to be. It may loom bigger in Universal Mind than that of your neighbor, whose position is so much greater in the eyes of the world. Do it well, and Universal Mind will work with you. But don't feel limited to any job or any one line of work. Man was given dominion over all the earth. And God said, "Let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over all creeping things that creepeth upon the earth." All energy, all power, all that can energize any influence over your life is in your hands through the power of thought. God, good, is the only power there is. Your mind is part of his mind. He is the Father that is within you that doeth the work. So don't put any limit upon his power by trying to limit your capabilities. You are not in bondage to anything. All your hopes and dreams can come true. Were you not given dominion over all the earth? And can anyone else take this dominion from you? All the mysterious psychic powers about which you hear so much today are perfectly natural. I have them. You have them. They only await the time when you shall be allowed to assert their vigor and prove themselves your faithful servants. Be not afraid. Claim your inheritance. The universal mind that supplies all wisdom and power is your mind. And to the extent that you are governed by your understanding of its infinite laws of supply, you will be able to demonstrate plenty. According to your faith, be it unto you. Analyze most of the great American fortunes of past generations, says Advertising and Selling Fortnightly, and you will find that they were founded on great faith. One man's faith was in oil, another in land, another in minerals. The fortunes that are being built today are just as surely being built on great faith, but there is this difference. The emphasis of the faith has been shifted. Today it takes faith in a product or an opportunity as it always did, but it takes faith in the public in addition. Those who have the greatest faith in the public, the kind of faith possessed by Henry Ford and H.J. Heinz, and make that faith articulate, build the biggest fortunes. Wanted. There is one question that bothers many a man. Should he stick to the job he has or cast about at once for a better one? The answer depends entirely upon what you are striving for. The first thing is to set your goal. What is it you want? A profession? A political appointment? An important executive position? A bonus of your own? Every position should yield you three things. 1. Reasonable pay for the present. 2. Knowledge, training, or experience that will be worth money to you in the future. And 3. Prestige or acquaintance that will be of assistance to you in attaining your goal. Judge every opening by these three standards, but don't overlook chances for valuable training merely because the pay is small. Though it is pretty safe rule that the concern with up-to-the-minute methods that would profit you to learn also pays up-to-the-minute salaries. Hold each job long enough to get from it every speck of information there is in it. Hold it long enough to learn the job ahead. Then if there seems no likelihood of a vacancy soon in that job ahead, find one that corresponds to it somewhere else. Progress. Keep going ahead. Don't be satisfied merely because your salary is being boosted occasionally. Learn something every day. When you reach the point in your work that they are no longer adding to your store of knowledge or abilities, you are going backward. And it's time for you to move. Move upwards in the organization if you are you can, but move. Your actual salary is of slight importance compared with the knowledge and ability you add to your mind. Given a full storehouse there, the salary or the riches will speedily follow. But the biggest salary won't do you much good for long unless you've got the knowledge inside you to back it up. It's like a girl picking up her husband. She can pick one with a lot of money and no brains, or she can pick one with no money but a lot of ability. In the former case, you'll have a high time for a little while, ending in divorce court and her having a worthless young rounder on her hands and no money to pay the bills. In the other, the start will be hard, but she is likely to end up with a happy home she has helped to build, an earnest, hard-working husband who has arrived in happiness. Money ought to be a consideration in marriage, but never the consideration. Of course, it's an easy matter to pick a man with neither money nor brains, but when it's a choice of money or brains, take the brains every time. Possessions are of slight importance compared to mine. Given the inquiring, alert type of mind, you can get any amount of possession. But the possessions without the mind are nothing. 9 times out of 10, the best thing that can happen to any young couple is to have to start out with little or nothing and work out their salvation together. What is it you want most from life? Is it riches? Picture yourself with all the riches you could use, with all the abundance that nature holds out, with such lavish hands everywhere. What would you do with it? Daydream for a while. Believe that you have the abundance now. Practice being rich in your own mind. See yourself driving that expensive car you have always longed for, living in the sort of house you have often pictured, well-dressed, surrounded by everything to make life worthwhile. Picture yourself spending this money that is yours, lavishly, without a worry as to where more is coming from. Knowing that there is no limit to the riches of mind, picture yourself doing all those things you would like to do, living the life you would like to live, providing for your loved ones as you would like to see them provided for. See all this in your mind's eye. Believe it to be true for the moment. Know that it will be all true in the not very distant future. Get it from all the pleasure and enjoyment you can. It is the first step in making your dreams come true. You are creating the model in mind. And if you don't allow fear or worry to tear it down, mind will recreate that model for you in your everyday life. All that the Father hath is yours, said Jesus, and a single glance at the heavens and earth will show you that he has all the riches in abundance. Reach out mentally and appropriate to yourself some of these good gifts. You've got to do it mentally before you can enjoy it physically. 'Tis mind that makes the body rich, as Shakespeare tells us. See that the things that you want are already yours. Know that they will come to you at need. Then let them come. Don't fret and worry about them. Don't think about your lack of them. Think of them as yours, as belonging to you, as already in your possession. Look upon money as water that runs the mill of your mind. You are constantly grinding out ideas that the world needs. Your thoughts, your plans are necessary to the great scheme of things. Money provides the power, but it needs you. It needs your idea. Before it can be of any use to the world, the Falls of Niagara would be of no use without the power plants that line the banks. The falls need these plants to turn their power to account. In the same way, money needs your idea to become of use to the world. So instead of thinking that you need money, realize that money needs you. Money is just so much wasted energy without work to do. Your ideas provide the outlet for it, the means by which money can do things. Develop your ideas, secure in the knowledge that money is always looking for such an outlet. When the ideas are perfected, money will gravitate your way without conscious effort on your part. If only you don't dam up the channel with doubts and fears. First have something good, then advertise, said Horace Greeley. First have something that the world needs, even if it only be faithful, interested service. Then open your channel to desire, and dollars will flow. And remember that the more you have to offer, the more riches will flow to you. Dollars are of no value except as they are used. You have seen the rich attacked time and time again in newspaper and magazines. You have read numberless articles and editorials against them. You have heard agitators declare against them by the hour, but have you ever heard one of them say a single word against the richest man of them all, Henry Ford? I haven't, and why? Because Henry Ford's idea of money is that it is something to be used, something to provide more jobs, something to bring more comfort, more enjoyment into an increasing greater number of lives. That is why money flows to him so freely. That is why